because it is such an emotional thing.
Okay.
And then we have,
go
ahead, Edward. Go ahead.
Well, I'm thinking along the lines of, you said if you do it partway through, after you've been established for 3 or 4 years or however many years, then you've got an investment, and any investment should have an ROI. And I'm curious how that sell works at the senior executive level.
Well, most companies that I work with, if I can talk with their board of directors, their CEO, I've just not found it particularly hard to sell. It's an idea that, you know, people understand that this has got a lot of common sense to it if you think about it. What is a brand? What do we stand for? And then is this how we're going to create engaged customers? If you're not interested in engaged customers, then that's just fine. If you just are in transactional selling, you know, and that works for you, you're in some sort of a commodity business, that's just fine. But if you want to start selling for a premium, any kind of a premium price, even, you know, even 5 or 10% over where the rest of the marketplace is, you're just about have to build a brand.
Okay.
So then there's the brand position. That's how we're seen in the marketplace. That can be defined. Brands don't have total control over this. They absolutely don't. But they can direct how they are positioned, and they can also direct their personality, what people associate with them. And today there's just so much work that's being done on word of mouth. I mean, a lot of people are working on, you know, what is it that's being written about us on the web? What are people saying about us? Product placement. I mean, Apple is, just notice in how many movies Apple computers show up. Believe me, that's not an accident. Apple is paying. Apple pays for that. And I've noticed that Apple never lets an evil person use an Apple. They're always nice people who are using Apples. And that's not, in my mind, accidental. They're doing that intentionally.
Now, I'm aware that a lot of people will be able to pay for product placement. It's not just Apple, it's the drinks and everything else associated with it.
Every time you see a brand in a TV show or or in a movie, somebody's paid for that.
All righty.
Definitely. And, you know, if you can get somebody, somebody willing to support your product in a positive way, it's something how people will buy these products. They just love associating with these products. I was just reading in California, they've got a real problem with dogs now. There's so many Chihuahuas that everybody bought because they wanted to be like Paris Hilton. And then they went out and bought these dogs, and then they found out that the Chihuahuas are really very temperamental little dogs and not so easy to be around, and so people are passing them over to the dog shelters. And California has thousands and thousands of Chihuahuas that they're trying to get rid of. So if anybody would like a Chihuahua, contact California Dog Control.
Okay. Now, can you tell me, do you have any stories about companies who transition from, shall we say, high-quality service to branded service and have seen a transition in their revenue streams and their profitability?
Okay. I can give you one example of a client that I've worked with, and I can speak to them in considerable detail about this because we worked with them for over a year. This is the model to work with them. It's a casino in the Midwest. It's called Jumer's Casino. It's actually a very well-known name in the Midwest because they were a big hotel chain that was dearly loved by people there. And then they had a history in which they barely survived, frankly. Because a lot of people don't understand that, but in the Midwestern part of the United States and the southern part of the United States, gambling is allowed, but they're forced to do it on water. So it was set up to go up and down the Mississippi, but then what happened is the laws got sort of manipulated, and now if you dig a hole and put some water in it and build a casino over it, you're considered an on-the-water casino. Yes, this is real practical economics. And Jumer's Casino was such a casino. It got, and it's also right on the border of it's in Illinois and it's on the border of Iowa, and Iowa regulations were different, and so they were suffering. They were really suffering. And they finally got this nice plot of land, and they dug a hole in it, put some water in it, and built a new casino. And they invited me in, and they said, you know, we really need to rebrand everything that we do around service. And so starting up there with Define, what we did with this client was to work with the staff and help them choose what was already good in the organization that we could then transfer to the new organization. Everybody there understood that they were going from a rundown, beat-up, actually 5 boats that were sort of duct-taped together, and then have them move to a more or less land-based casino that was beautiful. I mean, really, it's gorgeous. It's a one-stop shop. It has room for conferences. It has a spa. It's a gorgeous place. And they knew that the level of service that they were operating on these old casinos just was not going to work in this new location. They also knew that for their marketplace that they were going to have a lot of drop-in visitors because they happened to be on a freeway that goes up and down north to south in the United States, in the middle part of the United States, and also one that goes east to west. So they were right on the corner of that freeway, and they knew that there would be a lot of people who would come in and, you know, drop in. So there was going to be that sort of service that was required as well. So we did some considerable work in defining it. We identified measurements, and I encouraged them to look at all sorts of unique and clever ways that they could for really finding out what did not only the staff think about this, but also what did their customers think about this. And they got very creative. One of the measurements that they used was whenever a staff person would go into one of the public restrooms in the casino, that they would listen to what the customers were saying. Because actually people will talk quite honestly about a product or a service in the bathroom. The toilet measurement is what I like to think of it, and it's amazing what you can learn in those restrooms just listening to people. So they were doing all sorts of creative things like that. Then we looked at how do they communicate. The director of marketing got involved with not only what did they tell the public, but what were they communicating to their own staff. We collected stories, positive stories about the best kinds of service that this casino has offered in the past and how could we move this to the new casino. So it became an all-staff involvement on the communication side. They hired an additional 700 people, and they used this as an opportunity to communicate to the public the kind of person who would be working in the casino. And then we looked at management and you know, were these managers actually capable of managing this whole new process? And there's quite a bit of time spent on that. Every department set its own objectives for what it wanted to achieve. These were driven down, and the managers were measured against whether or not they were able to get those measurements in place, and then they were on their annual reviews. They're measured on them. And then the last part of it was the engage part, which was how do we engage the customers? And in order to engage the customers, we had to engage the staff. And we conducted 2-day brand camps with all of the participants who were in the class. And the real measure for us of the success of this initiative is twofold. Number one is that they're beating the competition. I mean, this has not been an easy year in the United States for the gaming industry. I think everybody will appreciate that with the financial crisis that we've been going through. And they moved right in the middle of this, actually right at the beginning of the crisis. They moved in the early part of this year. And they have they've actually increased the revenue from where they were as a riverboat casino, and the total amount of gaming in the whole region has actually decreased. So what that means is that they've been able to pull all the customers from the other casinos across the river in the other states that surround Illinois there. They were able to pull those people into their casino. And the Director of Human Resources tells me that in addition to these, I mean, they're really excited about the financial progress that they've been able to make in a very, very difficult year, a very difficult economy. But the staff is using the language of on-brand and off-brand.